Thank you for joining us for episode 17 of the Construction DorkCast. In this episode, we celebrate Dork of the Year, Lilian Magallanes.
Yep.
All right, Lilian, give me a pronunciation again so I don't screw it up.
Magallanes. Lilian Magallanes.
My background, it'd almost be like the MAGA work here anymore.
MAGA not work here.
Congratulations if you get that joke. On her Dork of the Year. She leads us down several nerdy topics and settles in on AI and NGL. No, I am not going to spell these out, Nathan. And since it's Lil's show, she brought in Jenn Bittinger to discuss those TLAs. Please remember to join us next week as we get down with some more dorks and talk deep tech and maybe even deep state. Right, Jonathan?
All right, and we are live for yet another fantastic episode of the Construction Dorks. I'm your host with the most, as I've been told this week, Jeff Sample, and I am really excited because this is our 17th episode, our second of the year, and I think, going to be one of the best because tomorrow's another DOY, which really stands for, well, we have our Dork of the Year. I'm going to start, normally I start going around the room, but I'm going to start right away with the fantastic Dork of the Year, passed on and anointed by the one Walker Lockhart, who was the first ever Dork of the Year. But Lilian Magallanes is with us today. Lil, to those of us who get to work with her quite a bit. Lil, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
It's us that's really honored to have you with us this morning or this afternoon. Jeez, it feels like morning. I don't know. Time's going by. It's COVID time. I got a whiskey. I got a Selt water. I'm good. Let's have some introductions though. Trent, you got the gangster background. Let's start with you this afternoon. What you drinking? Where you coming at us from? What you got going on this week?
So Flaviar knocked on my door today, but unfortunately no one was at home to sign for it. So I'm settling with a Lagunitas IPA. So I was hoping to have my Whistle Pig 10-year rye show up. But I'm gonna have to wait till tomorrow now, I think. So
it's gonna have to be a weekend drinker.
Yeah. I also want to point out before I go is with the new DOY, Lilian, is that like behind you there? Is that your version of Walker's Ficus back there, or what's the?
It's not. Does he have a ficus? I don't have any knowledge about that.
But sadly, I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not.
It's worth a search if you get back on LinkedIn. Go back on some of Walker's past podcasts when he was with Polk. But beside the ficus, next to the ficus, something like that. It's
around the ficus.
Around the ficus.
I don't know. It was just a ficus party.
Very good.
All right, Jonathan Marsh. I don't know the background. I can't quite see it today.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's from Ready Player One. This has been a battle all day. Like, I woke up and it was just constant problems, which started with an email that contained a virus, of course, because like I opened it up and I'm like, wow, so that's probably not from that person. So I'm not actually going to open that. And I called the company and I said, so did you send me something? And they're like, we sent every person in this guy's contact list a virus this morning. And so I felt that, this is from the battle from Ready Player One. I felt that was in keeping with virus. And today I'm going, I don't have a green screen this time, with some Jameson Black Barrel, which is some good, actually, man, it's for the price, man, it's my favorite Irish whiskey. It's a little darker, a little more caramely. It's got some great flavors behind it and well worth it. And I sure can use it today.
Well, if you haven't watched Ready Player One, by the way, go and watch it. It's
really good. Yeah.
Awesome. I just went back through it with my son, and it's crazy how much closer we're getting to it. Like the 4 drones that drop off the pizza, I was like, yeah, not too far from that. I got a balcony. I'd take a pizza that way right now. All right, Travis Voss, with the dorks behind him, one of my favorites. What do you got? Where are you at from today? What's going on?
I went ahead and I think I brought this one up last time. It's Barnstormer 40 Weeks. It's a double-barreled whiskey distilled here and flavored here in Rockford, Illinois. So it's a really smooth drinker. Despite it's a what is it, a 90 or it's a 119 proof, which is a little high for a bourbon whiskey, but it's very smooth, and I think it's the double barreling that does it. I'm going to go ahead and I think Trent technically asked the first question of our original guest there, Lilian, but did you get your DOY in the mail yet? Did Walker ship it to you, or are we still waiting? Do we need to prod Nathan a little bit?
No, I have it. It's actually right behind me.
Oh,
it's actually a lethal
it's
weapon.
See-through. That's kind of hard to see.
Yes. But I have it. I got it in the mail last week. Excellent. And it's super heavy, but yeah, I have it.
It's for protection.
Can I say it?
Go ahead.
Don't run with your DOY. That's gonna be a little scary.
Yeah, like what's it, the EGOT, like John Legend's an EGOT, but he doesn't have a DOY, so it's not
Lil, I think they skipped out on something that's relatively important. Could you introduce your drink? Because I know you brought one.
I did.
Oh, we didn't get to her yet.
Oh,
we
okay.
just wanted everybody to know.
You weren't in the pre-production meeting. Jeff has a plan.
Yeah, trust the process, John.
I don't have the faith I should. Man.
This is like the special teams coach sending somebody into the game. Like, no, get out of the game, kid. Coach. No, and mine today, have we said I'm waiting on my Flaviar delivery. Evidently I've had too much for my delivery already. That's a good old fashioned Woodford Reserve. I'm waiting for some new stuff to come back. However, you're going to notice that we have a couple faces joining us today. So those of you who may have read our post said, we're just going to have Lilian on, and Lilian said, no, it's my show. I'm bringing on a friend. So we have Jenn Bittinger with us today. Jen, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll let the star of the show, Lilian, give us a little bit of an intro.
Yeah, hi. It's so great to be here with all of you. And man, I didn't get the memo about the special drinks, but I guess water could pass as vodka. Just don't tell anybody it's this. But, in fact, one of my male clients was Woodford Reserve. So I should have asked them for a box. I should have sent a case over everybody.
Oh, wow. Are they looking to sponsor anything? We
can have a good sponsor for Construction Dorks. But so I'm super stoked to be here. Lily is so cool. I just have loved getting to know her. She's a great friend. So yeah, I was pumped to be here and look forward to this great conversation and celebrating her because she deserves it. She's really brilliant. And I know we could all go around and really give her many more accolades, but she wouldn't want us to. So, all right. So I'm super excited to be here. My company that I represent is Array. It's a tech information company. So we'll maybe talk about that later, but great to be on this and have more friends.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Dork Out and to our star of the show. And you're right, we could all go around and shower her with praise, but all of us who know that would make her super uncomfortable and would not be what she would want her own show to be about. So we are not going to do that. We're just going to say, Lil, thank you for joining us. What are you drinking? Where are you coming at us from? And, does the ficus make you feel better? That would be my question.
All right. Well, I'm definitely have a good drink. It's I'm in the middle of a move, so a lot of my stuff are still in boxes. So I found the first cup I can find, but I do have kept it simple. I love a good rum and pineapple juice. The rum actually has some. It's super special to me. It's actually rum from Guatemala, which is where I was born. And so really good rum. I had no idea that my beautiful country makes great rum. I just discovered it a year ago. And my background is just really for show at this very moment until I get everything situated. And I just I just put that there. I'm like, oh, this looks good. We'll add some greenery to the background. It's really what it came down to. And
Thanks
then
for classing us up.
Yeah.
of course, I need to dork up too. So not a lot of people know this, but I am a Star Wars fan, by marriage. So, we have a lot of, Star Wars decor. So put that in there.
Is this the new house or the old house?
This is the new house.
Nice.
Okay. So I didn't know if this was going to be like, that's a wrap and everything goes.
No,
all coming in. All right.
It's all coming in. So yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's super excited. So I hate moving. So don't like it. But
why?
Well, when you're moving and as you're getting older, it's not as easy when you were in your 20s, when you're like, I can do it all, no problem. We'll rent a truck, pack the boxes. 3 days later, you're still trying to move. Yeah, when you get older, you're like, I can afford to pay people at this point.
As somebody that's lived in the same house for 15 years now, though, I'll say is sometimes I want to pretend to move just to purge, just to get rid of a bunch of the stuff that because I don't have to move, it just sits in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
I just did that this weekend. So I did some purging. My problem is I only get halfway through. When you're not moving, you have to finish getting it all out of one place at least. When you're not, it's just like, meh, I'm done.
That's right.
Good enough.
So, Lil, we got to kick it off. You won the DOY this year, but when you think about construction technology and what's kept you going and kept you in it and kept you so passionate about it, because for those of us that have worked with you, that's the thing that comes off the most is the passion for technology and innovation. So how do you keep that up and how do you continue to do that?
I think it's a combination of so many things. I'm part of this industry somewhat by accident, but really it's part of the fabric of my family's DNA. My grandfather is a carpenter by trade. He's finally retired, but I remember as a child, he would take me to job sites. When, I think I recall so many times being at a job site and being up in the roof or the attic of a room, just hanging out, coloring, because I grew up with my parents for most of my childhood. So, being around tools, being around construction, remodeling, that was always part of my norm for me. As I got older and I really needed to define, like, what am I going to do as a career? And, having migrated to this country, my mother's biggest aspiration for me was to be a secretary, and as I was trying to discover and learn, my 20s, like, what do I want to do? I realized that my mother's ceiling was my floor. I could essentially be anything in this beautiful country. And one afternoon I was helping a friend paint, kitchen cabinets, and I'd gone through the process of designing and space planning, and that's when it hit me. I'm like, why I should just do interior design. I love this process. And that's how it kind of started. Finished my degree in interior design, graduated in 2007, and sort of at the start of the recession, there was no jobs available. My dream was to work for HGTV, with Candace, and help her select materials. That's sort of what I envisioned myself doing. But I ended up working for an architect, and I did everything and anything I could, from project coordination to helping with the materials library, to going, doing space planning, and it was so much fun. I soaked every bit of knowledge. And of course, the recession did not get any better, but I felt super blessed that I got a job for a bond project for Los Angeles Community College District. And that's actually where sort of this, part of my DNA kind of met my passion. I started doing BIM coordination and started working with a team. And that's when I decided, well, there's an entirely new role for me besides building. There's a future for me in really diving into construction technology. Worked on that project for almost 5 years. And then it wasn't until my life, at Bluebeam where I really started to learn about all these processes and procedures. And the best part about it is I got to meet so many great people, like all of you guys, listen to your podcast, listen to various podcasts, attending conferences. I feel like that's what's kept me passionate about, construction technology. I also owe a lot of that to Sasha. She's been such an inspirational person in this industry that when I talk to her, I'm like, oh, she gives me so much to think about. And I feel like that's what continues to fuel my passion, is having, people that are also sharing that same passion that continue to pour onto me and continue to fuel my passion.
That's so good.
And I will have a drink.
Yeah, you can just pause for a second and take a
Yeah,
drink.
mic drop, episode over, right? I mean, that's it right there.
Shortest episode ever. Done. No,
I needed a tissue. I'm like, oh, that's an awesome story.
It is
It's
awesome.
so good. So good.
yeah, you hit on a lot that keeps a lot of us going. I mean, it continually goes back to the people, but I'm going to put you on the spot because I didn't even think about it. But we could almost all do a 6 degrees of Sasha Reed. I have to throw a sprinkle of her sidekick at that point in time, Nathan Wood, even though I know he's listening over here. But I know my start, and a lot of what gave me the guts to continue was her and Nathan saying, no, we need you and you can do this. And so how do you think you can continue that? Cause that's what I think a lot of us are trying to do, is pass this on down to the next one. So how do you approach continuing that and, taking what Sasha and Nathan helped a lot of us start and grow it?
Ooh, I honestly think that when you try to force something to happen, you're like, I got to do this, it's not going to happen. I think that's when, your hard work and your passion meets at that intersection, and it's going to feel natural and it's going to just flow. And I've asked myself that question: how can I continue to give back what was given to me? The people that I think about, outside of my workplace who have given me the opportunities, like all of you guys here, to have the spotlight. I think that, for me, it has been about, put your head down and do the work you love, stick to that. And because that's going to be constant, because you're the constant, right? You're going to be the constant in following that passion. But when you follow that passion and you're staying true to yourself, it's going to naturally radiate to those around you. And it's not going to be hard work. It's going to be easy work to just share your passion. Many times I've sat in meetings and, at work, and, someone would ask a question and it's like, well, I especially about industry or construction, I was like, I just put up, I'm like, I have a lot of information I can share with you here. Here are some ideas. I just want to keep pouring onto the knowledge that I know. But it definitely am a huge believer that focus on the work that you love to do. Don't focus on the spotlight or what you're giving or what you're taking. Focus on that hard work and it will come. It will naturally flow.
That's awesome. You always do a good job of, even though you encapsulate it all. But now I want to get dorky. What are you dorking out on lately? I know you brought Jenn, and I know that was a little, I'm leaning in towards probably why you brought her with, because you want to get into some nerd. So let's take this off, and we congratulate you for all of that. And we're not under, but if we sat here and talk, let's have some nerd out. So what are you nerding out on?
Yeah, perfect. So something I was kind of mentioning to Travis, I'm like, I kind of want to, sort of recap in where 2020 led us. Let's not go into some of the, other things about 2020, but let's focus on construction technology for 2020. And I know at the beginning of last year, there was, an article that I read about 5 ways construction is going to evolve in 2020. So I kind of want to, talk it out with you guys to see where did we land. And definitely AI is something that has sparked my curiosity, and more so in the last couple of months. And this is why I have Jenn with me to kind of fuel in that passion. But one of the things the article mentioned was definitely a lot of scrutiny around, building collapses, right? That's something that we heard a lot, from, the Hard Rock hotels, the crane falling in Seattle, even Florida University, who had that bridge collapse a couple years ago. And there was a lot of spotlight on the fact that it was a women-owned company and, the design was flawed. How do we feel about that? Do we feel like there was that continuous scrutiny in 2020 with, all the deadly collapses that we've known in the past?
I'll just jump in. I mean, I don't think so. I think that we had this massive distraction, right? And I think that's probably a little bit a problem that we see just kind of overarching in all of our society is we're such a fast news cycle and so much happens that unfortunately probably a lot of focus was taken off of that. And it's something that is very important in our industry, right? Those collapses are a very big deal, and safety is a very big deal. So unfortunately, I don't think that it has gotten the focus that it should. I think overall general safety probably has gotten better just because of the level of controls that are going in now with the contact tracing and making sure everybody's on the job site doing what they're supposed to do. So maybe it's just kind of improved as a factor and a nature of that. Anybody else? That's just my first thought.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you with the overall picture. I mean, I look around the contractors and the projects that we have, and I think it's even the smaller MEP, it's very rare to see any small subcontractor even that doesn't have some kind of internal or dedicated safety representative on their projects, which I could speak to even 5-6 years ago. We didn't even have one. I mean, as a medium-sized contractor. So I think in general, that's definitely evolving and moving. But I also agree with Travis that, any big news, I mean, if it hasn't been COVID related or it's kind of been pushed under the rug this past year. So it's a good point.
Totally agree.
I would add something to that. The last job that I coordinated was the first job that I had ever coordinated where they asked us to tell them the loading on every hangar. And they said, listen, every point load can't be more than 250 pounds in a 4x4 square. And I'd never been asked that before. And they said, well, we're going to try this new construction methodology that's not quite as sturdy as some of the older construction methodologies. It's lighter weight concrete. We're getting a good return with the changes to structural. And the technology, and this was like 2 years ago, wasn't really there to do all those point loads automatically. But I think the move was right. I think that architects and engineers have been taking the blame for some of these building collapses when they really didn't have an understanding of what's going on inside their building, where us as coordinators, we know that what they drew and what we were going to put in are probably two different things. And we're going to add 600 pounds of steel, and we're going to add extra pipes and this and that. So I was really actually encouraged by the fact that now engineers were taking seriously the coordination side, the actual build side, and saying, we thought we knew what was going on. There's been a lot of accidents. We know that you guys can give us some of this data. Why don't you start handing that over?
But you have to, and you can't even accomplish that without BIM. I mean,
yeah, that was a big BIM moment.
I think it's important for them to accept what we're doing because, we're seeing more concrete being built off site, being fabricated precast wise. They're testing cheaper materials. Have you ever seen the precast, the ones they do with the hollow cores? Like it's actually an extruded product that they extrude into but I mean, you take a panel that's like a foot tall and it's got, these 7-inch circular hollow centers through. I mean, there's not a lot of material there. So as they experiment with cheaper ways to build these buildings, I mean, BIM is the only way we can control and prevent those disasters, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Trent, you started talking about, precast and, one of the things that the article also called for was for, modular construction, prefabrication. I feel like, throughout the year, last year, there's been a debate on, yes, it's good. No, it's not good. What does the rest of the DorkCast think about that?
Hey, wait a minute.
Doesn't matter
You're-
what I think.
You're
we better
interviewing
get on
us.
board.
Right.
We're
She's
gonna-
Oh,
doing
sorry,
it's
switch
the
roles.
Lil show now.
Well, Jeff, I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I actually, I love that. I love it.
I would say it doesn't matter what we think, Lil. I mean, yeah, it depends who you talk to. I mean, on my contract side, it doesn't bother me as long as we can understand it. Talking to the trade side, the labor unions and this and that. I mean, I mean, those business managers probably don't like it. But like it or not, we better get on board because it's happening.
Yeah,
So-
it's definitely happening. Yeah, that's definitely something, a positive, upturn that I've seen throughout the year in 2020. So, I feel like it's sort of this, a fast moving train, but at the same time is a bit slow because there's so many. Right now, we're only focusing on just the, the CA phase, right? We're not thinking more on the design side, or even, going a little bit further than that is thinking about how can we incorporate those prefabs into design so that's easy on the construction. I see Jonathan laughing.
Well, it's funny because Jonathan and Trent do this DFMA thing all the time, and we've talked about we've talked to COSA in the past with DFMA, and I would agree with Trent that we're not really especially from an MEP side, even if it's not a truly modularized construction design, everything like that, we're going to try to value engineer and do as much of that stuff, even though we don't always have full buy-in of the trades, which I do agree with you, Lil, that more and more of them are seeing the writing on the wall and they're getting on board, and they actually understand the benefits now to their credit. So we're trying to push as much of that stuff into the shop as possible. The problem is when it's handed off to us, a lot of that stuff is too late, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna focus in on our scope and do as much of our scope as possible. Maybe we have a good relationship with one of the other trade partners of the GC where we can leverage some more of that. But yeah, it's a little bit too late in the process there, to your point, Lil, and I know Jonathan's going to jump all over that.
Well, hey, no, I'm going to jump ahead of him. Because I actually,
No, he knows what we're going to talk about, because I was actually going to talk about what I think he's going to say.
No. Then go ahead, John.
I can go ahead.
Come on, John.
So Lil, a lot of what I've been seeing is we put a lot of equity into building these prefabrication and this modular construction, but it never makes it back around. So we never productize at the end of the day. We build these things, but we never really, like in my mind, it's that lean design cycle. When we come out with a prefab, that should be our product. And after we're done, we should go back to the engineers, architects with perhaps some software that helps us do it, Jeff, and offer it to them and say, listen, we have prefab modular, this. These are now the products. They're proven. We know their labor, all that. Get that in the design side, and even get them some Revit parts so that they can put it together.
How predictable is that? Yeah,
I'm jumping in front of Jeff because I did have a question for both Jen and you. And we can start with you, Lil. But when you saw a hospital built in like 10 days with 1,000 rooms in China, because I think that was a big mover from questions about prefab, was they're like, okay, wait, they just threw together a hospital in 10 days. Can we do that? And so what was your thought after seeing that go together? And what's your thinking about that level of modular design?
Great question. I think I honestly was super intrigued. I'm like, how did they do this in 10 days? I mean, I can see someone building it in 10 days, but let's take a step further beyond that. Who had this in stock? X walls and pillars and so on. Apparently I had, read a little bit further, other articles. It talked about apparently China had an inventory or storage of all of these materials.
So there's like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or a Walmart that just has walls and stuff on the shelf.
Yeah, that's what this article said. Apparently they had been preparing for something like this for some time and had a stockpile of all of these prefab materials, and they just brought them out when it was ready and built a hospital in 10 days. That's like, what I learned.
No, you're right. They had like a federal stockpile of emergency materials for generating the facilities required to resolve any natural disaster. And it's actually something our own country should learn quite a bit on how to eat that kind of
Right.
dog food because we don't know what the next one's going to be or how we're going to need to do it or where we're going to need to do it
I think
or
it's
under what circumstances. So you're right. Trent, go ahead.
I think it's important to say though that that design was done years ago, probably, right? I mean, that's
Right.
not just something they designed and threw together in 10 days. So it's important.
No,
to
yeah,
remember.
Yeah, they knew
Yeah.
they had the materials. They designed towards the materials and did it. But Jonathan, I was not going to go where you were going to go. That's an interesting. I like it though. No, because everybody loves to talk about disruption in this industry, right? And we're like, ooh, look at Katerra. And now we're all like, everybody else who we said that to before is like, ooh, look, see, they're falling apart. And you were wrong. But honestly, we said Katerra's the canary in the coal mine. Like they just fell over. And we know though that this is a viable option. And if you guys want to see owning this process from design all the way through to delivery and actually using new means and methods and cutting down on carbon and cutting and really taking advantage of all this is a single company doing it. And that's the Mace Group. If you guys have not, my little homework for you is go check out Mace Group. They're a UK based company and I am enthralled with what they're doing. I mean, I have taken half of what their CEO has said and put it in my speeches. Like first thing they do when they get a new design, Lil, is he goes, okay, cut 80% of the concrete, 50% of the concrete, get it out. And they go to Trent, you mentioned this before, precast. Like, and new means and methods for securing external walls so we can pour less concrete. Why? 80% of the carbon emissions created in construction, concrete comes right from there. So if you want to cut carbon emissions, that's how you do it. So
guess what else precast is? It's pre-engineered. It's pre-designed, right? I mean,
yes.
You're cutting so much out of
and it cuts a lot of cost.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but so Jonathan, that was not where I was going to go. Cause I was leaving my colors at the door. But I don't think, I mean, I think taking advantage of new means and methods and having the availability of those new means and methods earlier and earlier in the process is really the key. But, we called it when I came from the trades, it was like, oh, we got to get to the table sooner. And y'all have heard me say this, like if that's like getting to Thanksgiving dinner and wanting to have a politics conversation. That shit ain't going anywhere. Hey, nobody's leaving happy. Nothing's getting changed. Nobody's leaving going, oh my gosh, I saw the light. I'm going to do that. No, it's just like all of you people are noise. So we have to make it consumable. That being said, what other things can we do or technologies can we take advantage of that are going to, kind of push us forward? What's on the forefront of your mind right now, Lil? What else was in those articles, those things you're reading?
Yeah, for me, what popped up is artificial intelligence. I think when I think of AI, I think of, a movie, that I saw as a kid, and I think Will Smith was in it. I forgot the name, iRobot. And, I think about that. That's not achievable. That's way, way, year 3000 possibly. But the reality is that it's here. And what intrigues me of that is, and I feel like Tade said it best from HMC Architects. He said, AI is about training data, the data that we want to see. And maybe 5 years ago, if you would have said, oh, AI has a space in construction, I would have been like, well, how? How is that possible? But the more I've gone down this, this journey in my life, absolutely has a lot of, it has a place at the table. For the longest time, we talked about data, BIM models and data. Oh, sorry. Can I say BIM model here?
Yeah.
Is a cat
ATM machine, but whatever.
Yeah. Put your PIN number in.
We've been talking about data, getting clean data, putting clean data and getting clean data out. But I feel like, is it me, or I feel like the conversation has been shifted to AI, automation, cutting down, delivering efficiencies on the job side, but as well as, reducing that human error by increasing that automation. And, I met, Jenn, and, she has a technology that's about natural language recognition, a whole new world for me. It's like, whoa, how how does this even fit in the space of, of in construction? And really it comes down to, and I'm trying to bring up my notes, and of course my computer won't let me.
You're not allowed to have notes or scripted or anything.
Whoa.
Whoa. No,
Is that a
well,
crime?
Lil, while you bring up your notes, I want to turn it to Jenn for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a couple,
Sure.
because I think, and this is where you're in my arena. I love this arena, Jenn. So I'm excited to have you. And when you think about AI, I think everybody thinks about iRobot. Everybody thinks about these, like, it's almost a sentient being.
Mhm.
And that's, talk about the reality. Tell us a little bit about the reality while Lil brings up her notes, and we
Totally.
can get a little deeper.
So it's fun because Lil knows I get geeked out when I start talking about this. She just sees me light up, and I consider myself the Southern California blonde geek. Like, people are like, what? Like, where is this girl coming from? What really transformed my mind about artificial intelligence was that it used to be a term that I thought was very futuristic, like she said, very far away from us. But then when I started finding out how much artificial intelligence we all use already on a daily basis, it was a little scary. It was like, wow. Everything from a simple, text message where it's filling in the sentence for you. The sentence is already 2 or 3 words down the line, before you even get there. It's reading you. Also Siri, anything like this, Siri, or any kind of interaction with a computer when you're asking a question, that's artificial intelligence. And the same thing goes for pictures, on Facebook or anything like that, where it's reading a face. And so it's recognizing someone's image. Instantly, it says, oh, is this your picture? Tag yourself. That's artificial intelligence. So it's really creepy, very much eye in the sky, kind of, like, whoa. But at the same time, I also thought, dang, this is like something that we can utilize for our own benefit. So if it can be used for social media, no offense to social media, I love all my social media geeks who work in those entities, but I thought this can be used to make things work faster, work more efficiently, cut down on cost, cut down on human error, and it can actually help us to live our lives more. And I sound cheesy, I sound like Oprah when I say it, but I'm like, this is a place where I get to get out of the weeds in all this data, trying to figure out what it actually says. And I can actually get quick summaries. We're going to talk about that, but quick summaries where I can actually have a report quickly and then go live my life.
I need to interject. My only question right now is, so when I do CAPTCHA and I'm teaching it that what's a stoplight, what's a bicycle, and what's a bridge, I'm not training my robot overlords.
Yeah, exactly. You're not in control. Okay.
Can't even answer it. She knows the truth.
Yeah, so that's kind of where, Lil, I'm going to let you keep going with, if you found your notes, but
I did not find my notes.
Well,
Wing it like the rest of us.
Yeah, I was just gonna have, but what's fascinating to me is, imagine being on a job site and you train your data to give you exactly what you need to see. And as a PM or BIM manager, or even just an executive of the project, you can say, okay, give me information on where is my project. We constantly talk about needing the right data at the right time, and this is exactly what it's about. And I've never seen anything like this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm super excited about this type of technology that exists today, where it's right now we're overloaded with data. Even I don't want to tell my phone what I'm thinking, because then suddenly I'm going to scroll up my feed and it's going to give me something that I've been wanting. It's like, oh, here's a subscription for something, or here's a product. It's super scary. It reminds me of the episode of any Parks and Rec fans here. Remember the episode? Yeah, the episode where a drone comes at your door and it gives you everything you've been searching for or talking about in your room. It's like, you know, like Jen says, it's great that it's giving me the right data I'm looking for, but it's also scary at some level. But you know, again, for me, the excitement there is training the right data to give you training the data to give you that, right data, I said it backwards. Hold on, this string's getting to me.
Have more.
Yeah.
No, so
I
but we
have a question along those lines, Jeff.
Go ahead,
just
John.
real quick.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that I left work in direct construction was they were building some AI for construction, and it was based on natural language. And one of the biggest problems was getting people, when they tried to interface with the computer, to use natural language, because they would use other terms. If they were going for a drawing, they wouldn't say, I just need the plumbing on the first floor in the mechanical room. They'd say, I need room 940, whatever. They would get really technical.
Mm-hmm.
As you guys have played with, and I'm sure, Jen, you've played with AI quite a lot. Have you noticed that there's a psychological side to it where not only are we training the computers, but in a way they're kind of training us to adjust our terminology to maybe be more effective? And have you seen any of that?
Yes, actually. And we've seen this, we're seeing it now, not just in construction, we're seeing it across the board, in every industry that we're working with. It's not just that you are training the computer, they're training us. And where we go is with algorithms, really figuring out the right way to ask the right questions. So that's what we do is we work with, in order to get those 1 to 2 sentence summaries of the data and what it actually says, then we work on the algorithms and we make sure that we're asking it in the correct way so that we get the right information out. And, that's what our team does. And we just really, it's like fine tuning your recipe, I guess you would say, for your algorithms and what you want it to spit out for you. So
it's kind of a combination of using, like a programmatic and a little bit of algorithm in the background. Like we have to break it down a little bit, because this is my geek out, is like sentient AI does not exist.
Right.
And it's not in the future. Like Lil, it's not 3,000, it's 5,000 before
So
we
says you.
really see that. No, it's really, it is. And DJ just put it in the comments. It's not only about asking the right questions, it's about training it on the right data set and understanding that there has to be a specific answer, right? AI is not, that's a good one. A recipe, right? You called it, Jen, a recipe. Like, they are horrible if you get a data set of recipes and say, create me a new recipe. That ain't going to happen. They're going to put shit in it that you never thought was coming.
Exactly.
However, there's very little. Yeah. And actually, all right. And I have to admit, like, I just finished reading this book, thanks to Dustin Adam, who eventually we'll have on the show, but we just had in the Contact Crew. You Look Like a Thing and I Love You, an AI weirdness book is what it's called. And if you want to read it, who did the book? It's by Janelle Shane. And it really breaks some of this down to, like, you're right. We're experiencing a version of very specific AI on a very regular basis, because Siri knows a couple of words. And if I'm like, Siri, you have no idea what I want to say, I'm just going to keep typing. I can, right? We're not injecting her, but she's giving us a specific set of answers to a very particular question, which, to Lil, your point, we have to know what kind of questions our construction teams are going to ask so that we can give it the answer. So if I'm hearing it, Jen, you guys are putting a layer in between and going, yeah, I know what you said, but this is what we're going to ask the AI for, because it's going to give us a good answer, and then we're going to give that back to you. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. It's, as we say, it's 90% artificial intelligence, 10% human, so we still need people, like, and that's why I when I talk with people, they're like, oh, this is going to take all of our jobs. And I'm like, no, this is not going to take all of our jobs. Don't worry. In fact, we need more people. We need people who understand this and can learn it. And it's not rocket science. It is easy to learn once you get past what I did, get past that barrier of that this is Star Wars. get past that barrier that this is Star Wars and that this is actually something simple to learn. And so I think it's really cool because it just helps our lives. It's going to help us be better humans, I guess you would say, not computers, but better humans. So.
Well, yeah. And in construction, we're careful. Like the first thing I ever did when I did a robotics talk, I did robotic process automation. And the first thing I was told was, whoa. Start everyone with, we are augmenting people. This is not about replacing. This is about augmentation.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's key. Travis, you had a question, right?
Yeah. My thought is kind of around the whole training and everything that you're sharing there, which is right. And in the conversation we had back and forth is about training ourselves, is training our data. How do you handle that in an industry like ours, where you're going to have a foreman that needs a question answered, and they don't have time for that answer to be wrong, but we need that feedback into a system to teach the algorithm, to teach the AI, the machine learning, that it is wrong. How do you strike that balance? Is it doing a ton of preloaded testing, preloaded questions? I'm really, because it's very interesting for me right now is that because you're going to get that foreman that's just like, screw this is bullshit, this fucking thing doesn't work, and he's going to pitch his iPad right off the building.
Yes, accurate.
That's the mild reaction.
I toned it down. It's a family audience, I'm sure.
Yeah, for example, I've talked with Lil about this a lot, is that when we start implementing this NLG, natural language generation software, we first do what's called like a pilot phase, okay? And that's where we figure out the most frequent common questions or information that your teams need out of all this data. Okay, so if you have tons and tons of data, reports coming in from the job site, from the office, wherever it is, you put all this into into our data software that we then put in those algorithms, the questions, asking it what you guys need to find out. And then it starts fine tuning those kinds of answers. We call them DSNs, data story narratives, and they're 1 to 2 sentences. But what's interesting is that, like a WIP, you guys know what WIPs are, work in progress reports. We are seeing that the amount of information that people actually get off of a WIP, only 20% of their team or workforce actually understand that report correctly. This is actually a statistic, and I can show you guys where this. And so that means 80% of the workforce or your team doesn't get the right information out of that report. So it's kind of, yeah. So whenever we're doing WIPs and with project managers and all this stuff, I know that they're looking for frequent, hyper accurate reporting, and it explains it. We want to explain the numbers and the state of the project with textual summaries, of exactly what it's saying. So I've worked with beasts of managers and foremen, not in construction, but in other industries. And so we want to make sure that it's extremely accurate, more accurate than someone who's having to take 2 or 3 weeks to go through that data. And we want to make sure that it's really giving us what we want in a timely fashion, like today. And so we can do it. We get it where you can get it instantly. We've even done this through Slack bots. You guys know what a Slack bot is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you have Slack, and then it's catered towards you and your team, and you can just ask it questions and it'll start.
I actually have a question about, so I was talking to Bob Snyder about this about 2 years ago. Okay. We sat down and we had dinner, and there was an AI out there that was being used in construction. So it's being taught construction terminology. And we realized something. We realized that when I asked for a submittal, and when an engineer asks for a submittal, when an architect asks for a submittal, we're asking 3 different questions. We expect 3 different data sets coming back at us. And I mentioned this to Bob, and he was bored to tears. And he said, I don't even care about that. I said, I want to know what questions I forgot to ask. And I thought that was probably one of the coolest things about AI, because right now, when I look at something and I go to buy it, it says, these are the other things you might want to buy. And we thought, what would be awesome is if construction AI would tell us not what we want to buy, but would say, you forgot to ask these 9 questions, and they're going to bite you in the ass down the road, And he actually he sat there for an hour with me and set up a kickoff meeting where you weren't allowed to give answers. You were only allowed to set up the questions for the project. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But I think it weighs into that idea that AI has not really come of age because it hasn't learned how to speak to us yet. Just like you were saying, it has to learn who we are, has to learn our terminology, has to learn what we're looking for. And even then, it works, it's awesome. And you can go through a lot of data. Like once you use AI, you'll forget there's no need for a folder structure. You just say, I would like my drawings, please. And I dig that. But I do think, I feel like we're just scraping the edge. We're like looking at other things when we could be saying to AI, we'd like to know the questions we haven't asked. We'd like to know the risks for everybody in the United States on this type of a project, those types of things. So do you guys see, and Lil, this is because you worked with the CPC, you've looked at those different stakeholders and how they interact. How do you see a need for things like that common language affecting AI? Do you feel like being part of that group is giving you a better view of all of the different stakeholders, I guess you could say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think there's a commonality of what we really need. We need information, right? It hands down. There is that, I think Nathan will be proud, that shared pain, hashtag, or hash brown, if anyone watches Cobra Kai. But see, I am a dork. I'm a geek. Of that pain that we all share about, like, what information should we be asking for? So yeah, it's giving me that, ability to kind of see that, not so much from a high level, but maybe from like objective, perspective, that there is a common theme. But I think the pain to that is, how do we bring it all together where it is something as simple as, there are 3 questions that you should think about, or 5 questions, or what are the standards of those questions, across the board.
Have you guys seen AI used to generate drawings yet? Have you sit through a demo of any of those experiments?
I actually did a while back. Someone posted a video on LinkedIn on, I think they used Alexa to tell it to, draw an interior wall, but they had to be specific. They were very specific on the instructions. And I did see that happening, but at a very basic level. Side note, speaking of Alexa, I actually programmed mine for the call name to be computer instead of Alexa, because it makes me feel like I'm on an Enterprise at one point.
Yeah.
Nice. So you do the Star Trek, Star Wars crossover, then you're not opposed.
Oh, my husband's really proud when I'm like, oh, I know the difference between both of them.
That's awesome.
But yeah. Anyways, not to divert, but
No, we actually have a crowd question, and I love these because this is why we do this. So DJ Phipps, anybody surprised? DJ Phipps asked a question. I mean, it's like Nathan Wood calling us out on a TLA. NLG, natural language. Give me the G.
generator.
Generator. Natural language generator for you, Nathan. That's just for you. But from DJ Phipps, we have so much data available to us now. It can be overwhelming at times to sift through it all and find what's relevant in the moment. How do we find our way through the data soup?
Ooh, I like that. Data soup.
I like the data lake and we're all drowning in it, DJ. That's mine.
Right.
I'm picturing alphabets.
But while you guys, I want you to think about this for just a second. While you think about machines doing everything, this is what happens when machines do your marketing. This is, and my girlfriend's kids call this Selt water. Can anybody figure out that it is Selt Oh, wait, we cut it off. Water.
Oh.
It's salt water. This is when a machine comes up with your marketing for you. So think about the data lake. How do we get the information out of the data lake, or the swamp, as somebody just put in there?
Well, hence we are not going to be doing marketing out of our AI. Lil, I'll say a few words
Yes,
about.
jump in. Yeah.
Okay. I love that he asked that question, because that's exactly what we talk about at Array, at my company, is that we feel like so many people nowadays, because there's so much information, what even Lil said earlier, we're drowning in information from, data, reports. And I remember I worked for several companies in the past where I had to do weekly, or monthly reporting, and it would take me hours and hours. And by the time I was done with just my conference calls for the day or my meetings, I would still have at least a couple hours to go through data every night. And it was exhausting. And I felt like my eyes were being fried and falling out. And it's just a job that I've talked with even my friends who are senior data analysts. Okay. These people are like the king of the crop in this area. They hate it still. Like they don't like sitting and combing through data. It's not fun. And so what I love is that with artificial intelligence, natural language generation, we get the opportunity to let the computer do that job. So let a software do it for you, where you can just tell it, this is what I want. This is what I want to find out. These are the numbers. Can you tell me how many, how many people were injured on the job site last week between this date and this date? And it'll spit out, anything that was reported, or how many people had COVID and didn't show up on the job. It'll spit out all that information for you. So it's just very exciting. In fact, we've already seen the COVID pandemic using this to not only report how many people are testing positive for COVID or passing away from COVID, but also the variant strands of COVID and, what's coming down the pipeline. So I think with the sea of data, this is one way that we can really get ourselves out of the water and into a boat and going in the direction we really want to go. So that's really what I have to say.
I like your answer, Jen. I think it's a really good answer on that. But DJ, I'm going to challenge you, because actually the power of data lakes comes when we think about the connectors, right? They all run back to the ocean, but we have to learn, and no one water source, one data source tells us a truth, right? It tells us our perspective. To give Nathan another one, I got to pay him another $1 for a whiff of, it's my perspective, right? Like, this data only shows me this. If I don't cross-reference it with economic data, cross-reference it with population data, if I don't connect these things together to start to drive the quality of information I'm getting, I'm never going to get to that point that I'm looking to get to. And so we have to not only think about connecting those things together, we have to think about the question that we want to ask it. It really simply goes back to, what question do we want the answer to?
Yeah.
But we have to stop thinking about the parameters that we then ask of that question, right? Natural language learning has to figure out dialects, right? We can't tell it which dialect is calling us, right? We have to understand that we have to ingest the dialects and understand when a dialect's being spoken, and then adjust to that dialect. So we have to understand that the conditions in which we're building, or where we're building, or what we're building have an impact on the question that we're asking, and they're like our dialect. So we really have to get to understanding that. But to do that, and Nathan just put up CDX, yeah, man, we have to share this at a scale that people don't understand.
That
At
leads,
least in construction.
that touches on Trent's question, right? I mean, do you give up access to part of your data for this?
All of
All
your
of
data.
your data?
But normalized. Now get this right, Trent. Normalized.
Right.
Right? Like, it's got no because your data is not your intellectual property. Your intellectual property is your people, your strategic advantage, your people, your culture, and your application of that technology.
Right. I mean, it's a loaded question, right? It's like, but when you're at that crossroad, what do you do? Because it's like, obviously I can't sift through this. So I have two options. I augment myself to find a way to do it, or I give it up. I mean,
But we're also finding, because that's great. And I get that question from everyone I talk to, because they're like, wait, this is our private data. I even have like pharma companies who I talk to, and they're like, whoa, we have people's personal information here. What we do is we really want, at the end of the day, when we are looking at NLG and how to get really fast reporting out of all this information, we really just say, listen, it all is uploaded into a cloud form that is secure. It's very secure. And at the end of the day, we just want numbers. We don't want people's names, their date of birth, their social security number. We really just want numbers. And so, it's strange, but the numbers really tell you a lot of information, and they're going to give you a lot of information. And so that is a very common question that we are always getting, and we're always going to be working on. I think even as things get more digital in our whole world, we're always going to be working on the safety and security of our information. I think that's really important. Just like, buildings have to be safe and secure. Well, wherever we house our data needs to be safe and secure.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Travis.
I was going to say, I have a question that'll bring it real quick to construction again. What do you do then when all of your data lakes have turds floating in them, and every time I take a spoonful of my data soup, it says shit?
Garbage
and,
in.
and by the way, they're not interconnected.
Is that Nestle? Now it's Nestle Quick or
Okay. We have opened up Pandora's box here, by the way.
Wow, I really should have a stronger drink on that.
Yeah. So no,
I'm gonna turn it to you, Lil.
Travis, you broker. My
Damn it. I broke the AI.
I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I think it just goes back to, this is clearly, shitty data, pun fully intended, but, I think it just goes back to, I think about the standardization of data, I don't want to say this, but, the common data exchange, do I owe Nathan $1 or $2 here?
Yes.
Don't worry, we'll pay it for you.
No, thanks. But I think it just goes back to that clean data, but the question is, how do we, sustain that, clean data? Like, how is that done without getting, that dirty data? I'm not really sure how to answer the question, because I think that's something I struggle in trying to understand, because, the data dumping is just such a, fast and running, waterfall, that's coming in. And, how do you control that from the top? How do you control that to make sure that you're getting that right information? I think I challenge even thinking about that. So not an answer, but it's more of an, I'm answering you with a question.
So like an analogy to the lake or the water thing would be like, what's easier to construct, like a dam or some kind of net system, right? Or something. What would be the most efficient way to catch the fish you want?
No. So Trent, you just hit it. So I was waiting for that, because you're right. Because Travis, it has to understand, like, are you talking about one of your lakes, one of your ponds? How much shit is in each? And how much is that actually polluting, right? Because if you talk about something that you're doing on a regular basis and it's basically full of shit, then your pond is full of shit. If you're talking about something that you do fairly infrequently and it has a little bit of shit in it, well, then it's probably going to dissipate, right? And so what we
call in podcasting world a leading question.
Yeah. And what we need is the
profession.
ability to analyze that data separately. We need a set of tools that looks at that data and understands the cleanliness of it compared to the volume of it, and determines which of it is real shit that needs to be changed. Like, yo, you have to go get rid of that app because it's all garbage. Or, hey, no, actually, we can trust this and we've got to look for a trend in it. Because when you look at trends, if you're really looking at, Lake Michigan, a trend in Lake Michigan is very different than the little lake down the street, that's really just a pond. So it's really a relative answer to your question on how we clean that. But we actually need a set of tools that analyzes that data on the way in and gives us an understanding of how good it is, which that's what transforms data analysis and creates a set of data in your own organization. And then as you pass that information out into the greater good to be used, right? I mean, am I wrong on that one?
Right. So
I know we're getting late in the episode, but
our data is the trophy fish, right? So our net needs big holes. I mean,
or it needs little holes because you're after sardines. I don't know.
Exactly.
Well, and I asked the question a little bit because I've been asked before, because this is something I'm passionate about, is the data and the analytics that go around it. Is, well, what do I do? Do I focus on getting the data right, or do I focus on collecting it? And I've always leaned towards collect it. You can't go back and reanalyze anything that you didn't collect. We'll get the strainer out and fish out the turds eventually, and AI is going to help us do that. But you can't go back and recollect something that in the past. So that's kind of, it's a leading question a little bit to try to understand what the process is. But yeah, you have to keep collecting, and then you inform the collection tools, both the collection tools and the reporting tools, to your point, Jeff.
Yeah. And Travis, I just want to piggyback on that. I think you're absolutely right. The one way that we can actually get everything, going smoothly is if we can get it faster, right? And more accurately. And so that's where, like you said, AI and NLG, the faster reporting, the more frequent reporting we can get, the more that we can clean up the shit and get everything in the lake cleaner, so it's like running it through, through a treatment plant, right? Like if you have a lake, what's our treatment plant, right? So that would be our AI. It would be the treatment plant. We want to run it through so that we can clean it up. We can get better results. We can get, we can tell our teams in the field or in the office or, anyone out there, hey, can you do this better? Can you, because if we don't know where the problem is, why we're getting this shitty data, then how do we fix it, right? So that's kind of weird.
It goes back to treating not the symptom, but the actual root of the problem, right? It kind of goes back to that analogy.
Get back to the problem, right? We have to solve a problem at hand. Oh, Nathan Wood, so much AI, not ML. Machine learning, AI, they very much blend together. We can have an ML discussion next time, Nathan. But I actually I wanted to make my own new analogy that I like. Everybody in the construction industry, because DJ asked us, like, how do we get construction companies to understand this? That your data is actually no good on its own. So I want to show you something. Anybody have kids? This is the nuggie that my daughter cannot go to bed without. Why? Because this keeps the boogeyman away. That's not sharing your data. You think you're keeping the boogeyman, your competition, away by hanging on to this thing. But if somebody actually walks in the room, how much is this going to do? It's going to do nothing. Without all of our security systems and understanding how people attack and how people do things on a larger scale, it's not going to help you. So you can put this under your pillow and make you think at night and sleep well, but ultimately you're not any safer and you're not any better off. And we have to get better than that.
What if you have a non-compete with the boogeyman?
A non-compete.
A non-compete with the boogeyman? Dude, what deal did you sign? I got to get on Trent's bandwagon. Trent, I praise you. We're with you. Wait, you're over here. You're over here. Sorry. You're over
wait, what?
It's getting late. We're actually getting near the end, guys. So after those deep thoughts, behind or around or next to the ficus, because Lil, I just can't get away from that. Lil, what do you want to tell people? What are you looking to in 2021? Everybody thought pandemic was over. It's not. but it's getting closer. What are you looking forward to in 2021, and what are you thinking about?
Oh man, I think what's well for me is, seeing where this industry, this resilient industry is moving towards. I think, seeing the technology spikes on, on items that keep people safe. Like there was a shortage of 360 cameras last year, where everyone was trying to get their hands on. Why? Because it was keeping people at a distance. Maybe a few months ago, companies are like, maybe I don't need technology like construction sites, for example. Talk to me a couple months. Suddenly everyone was like, where are those cameras? Get them on the side ASAP. Drones is something that's been amazing to see, where, it slowly started to grow and trend, and it was a luxury, and now it's a necessity. Like we need to keep eyes on the field. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this industry is evolving, where it's, it's no longer, keeping to what's worked before, but there's a beauty in kind of seeing this disruption, as a global effect to really, usher in new ways of thinking, new ways of working, working from home, that's a very, I don't want to say old school mentality, maybe you can help me with the terminology, but just a very old way of thinking. More time in a chair, the more productive you are. Now there's a flip to that. The more quality of work and productive you have, there's really no need to keep track of anyone's time. It's really based on quality. Really shifting, profits to people center. So, I want to see that more on construction. I know there was a project, I want to say the Hudson Yards, maybe a year ago, where they were offering their construction team perks like massages and haircuts on the job site, things that some of the perks that you see at a software company. You typically wouldn't see that on a job site. So I think what's exciting for me to see is seeing those things are getting flipped over and over.
You hit on a good one too. It's the lights on mentality the construction industry used to have, thinking that that's what drove productivity, and it really doesn't. It's a fallacy in and of itself. And in fact, the least productive have the lights on longest in a lot of respects. So Jen, I know we're kind of wrapping it up. Any thoughts for 2021, 2022? I mean, you're in AI, so we could say in 2030.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the geek out forward that you're thinking about?
Oh man. I think, there's just there's a lot of good stuff coming, especially in the AEC industry. I get super excited whenever I talk to Lil and some of my other contacts in construction and architectural engineering. I think that as she said, when crisis hits, the people who emerge out of it stronger and more resilient and adapt to change, those are the ones who are going to be the most successful. And not that we want to say, well, you're not successful if you haven't done this, but I think that, instead of being afraid, we just need to, grab onto it and ride it, just be hustlers. I always tell my team, like, when there's something you don't know, you need to research it. You need to find out everything you can about it. Don't be afraid of it. And don't be afraid that it's going to take you out of the equation. It's going to make you stronger to fit in that equation for the long haul. So I tell a lot of companies and a lot of people this because they're they're pretty scared. This year really threw everyone for a loop. And I think if we can adapt and be stronger going forward, we're going to do some really great things. I think we're going to see bigger things coming, especially in AEC. Yeah.
Agreed.
Amen.
I like it. Amen. And
Cheers.
Trent, hey, cheers to that, right?
Yes,
Trent, you put it in the chat though, man. And it goes unsaid enough. Winston Churchill, never let a good crisis go to waste.
That's right.
Now's the opportunity
Yeah, I
for
said that.
us.
Yeah.
Well,
Good on
you put it in the chat, didn't you?
No.
It was you.
Yeah,
that
just
put
put it in the chat.
Sounds great.
Who did? Who put it in the chat? Wait, I gave him credit. I thought it was him. Oh, it was Travis. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Sorry, Trent.
Mhm.
It was Travis.
Credit.
I'm really good
Ramon.
at making other people look smart.
Thanks, by the way. I've been living off you for a while, my friend. No, Jen, Lil, it's been awesome to have you guys on
Yes,
because
thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
it, it is the dork out, it is the geek out that makes every one of us get up every day, go to work, try to make a difference. And Nathan, no, it was not Rahm Emanuel who said it first. He stole it from Churchill.
Fight.
Hey, Lil, congratulations on being Dork of the Year. Anything you want to say as the Dork of the Year?
Real quick,
the other dorks?
Nathan is responsible for your what's the word I'm looking for? Your bonus for the Dork of the Year. So make sure you hit him up with that.
I'll text him after this.
Yeah.
Oh, good. You guys just traded because we used enough of his terms.
Exactly. All the dollars we throw his way go to your bonus. So there you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What do you got to say? Any final words?
I think I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, I think, I think the beauty about this community is that, we're always uplifting each other and, giving each other a chance. And I feel so very lucky to be in the presence of all of you guys, and not just, all of you here, but just this industry as a whole, has really entrusted me in carrying that passion. So I'm utterly thankful, and grateful to be in this industry. I'm thankful for this award because it was completely 100% unexpected. But also, it's also evidence that when you just focus on what you love, just the best of you, comes forward. So I also want to thank Nathan because, he entrusted me so much with CPC responsibilities this last year and moving forward. So, but my final word would be Dork on.
No, love it. That's great.
Thank you, Lil. It's actually all of us who really have you to thank for the passion and your authenticity. That's something you can't fake, you can't not be, and you are. And so for that, we really appreciate it. And we really appreciate you coming on and joining us for the second episode. And for everybody listening, this isn't the last time we're going to see you, Lil. Jen, I don't think it's the last time we see you on one of these podcasts. So we appreciate. All right. Hey, the attendees is always open, and you never know when we're going to promote people to panelist. We've been known to do that in the past. And to everybody out there, I want to say have a great 2021. This has been awesome. We all do this together. It is a movement.
It's a movement
of itself and a grassroots movement. And to each of my DorkCast friends, thanks for being here with us. To Lil and to Jen, thank you for being here. We are the Construction Dorks, and we are out.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you.
Cheers. By the way, Trent, how do I sound?
Good, man. Why?
I was sounding like a robot earlier, so if I start sounding like a robot, someone tap me in the chat and I will adjust my bandwidth, which may even run out in the middle of the show, which I'll be right back on as soon as one of my kids hands me a phone.
Robots
Lilian,
are cool, though. I mean, robots are in.
Yeah, no doubt.
I have a meeting next week. We have 2 jobs that may potentially be able to use the Hilti robot.
Nice.
I want to touch that thing.
Have you guys heard of the
In a non-sexual way.
I think we're going to have a device-free holographic world where, if I'm the plumber, I'm on site, I take my BIM model, it's on a device that I set in the middle of the room, and then it just holographically puts all my pipes in the space that you can see without a device on. And then you install I'm sure that's probably not even that far away.
Yeah. I have to say, so Lilian, have you tried the new LiDAR on the iPad Pros or the iPhone Pro yet?
Not yet. I need to upgrade my phone.
Steal an iPhone 12 Pro and try it. It is such a great, it's not perfect resolution, but it's super fast and it's really interesting. I saw it as one of those things that's like, oh, wow, that's going to change the way that we do a lot of our general measurements. And you can send AR messages to one another with it. So I can scan Lilian and then text Lilian over to somebody. And when they hit the button, they'll drop a scan of you into the room and they can locate it wherever they want. Oh, it is. It's crazy.
Very cool.
It is very, very cool.
Yeah, and of course I killed it by asking about Flaviar.
It gets buried there.
Yeah, we moved on, man.
That's the problem with Slack. It's not a communications. It's like it's a conversational quick. I forgot that.
It's what are my thoughts right now?
Yeah.
Right here, right now. Let me vomit on you, and maybe I'll remember later.
Someday I'll have to let you guys see what happens at Penn State's Innovation Lab because I think you guys would geek out about it.
That'd be cool.
My brother's I hired one of the guys out of there and they were like showing me and I'm like, hey, can you help me with this robotics project? And he's like, which robot? And I said the name. He's like, oh yeah, that one. It's got this problem. I'm like, seriously? Like a random robot online and you know what the problems are with it. It's like, oh, they give us them. And I actually, in talking about that Dusty Robotics, I saw 3 days ago a robot arm that was used to clean and sanitize bathrooms. And now they're talking about taking that robot arm that's kind of like a step up from a Roomba. It actually can swap down things and use it on the job site to do some of the less fun cleaning up. I think they also probably got to look at how much we spend cleaning up job sites, which is appalling. Like we spend a ridiculous amount in just cleaning the job sites. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I had on another note too with, you know how Apple, they started the M1 chip they're using in their new MacBook Pros. Yeah. So I had a job that we did pretty well on. I was able to, how do you say, it's coming, to try that out here soon. Apparently it's wicked fast. Like when you're,
Are you going to run it parallel style? Like, so you're running both operating systems? Are you going to run boot camp, something like that on it? Because we were interested.
I'll just stick with the Mac OS. I mean, are you saying like to actually put Windows on it too? Or?
Yeah, to put Windows on it too.
I don't know. If I need to, I will. But
it's interesting. My support guy asked me about it, and I said, that's the only unknown for me when Apple comes out with a new architecture on a chip. Will it work with Windows the way it's supposed to? And my guys have to do both. Like, you can run your life and your business, and all the tasks you got to do, but when you got to share your screen and show one of our customers, it has to be a Windows screen. So
gotcha.
I'll be interested, but if you're not going to run it, then I don't know. Maybe I'll just have to.
If you want me to try it, I will. It doesn't matter.
We'll see.
Yeah.
What you're passionate about. We also are shooting for lots of adult beverages, etc.
Oh, man. I forgot mine.
Those are encouraged.
But not required.
Not required.
Wait, what?
I definitely have mine.
Contract. All right, Lilian, give me a pronunciation again so I don't screw it up.
Magallanes. Lilian Magallanes.
Mm-hmm.
You got to stay it with that style.
Español.
Lilian Magallanes.
Magallanes. Perfecto.
I learned from James Benham I can do really bad accents if you want. Lilian Magallanes.
My background, it'd almost be like the MAGA work here anymore.
MAGA not work here anymore.